a truth they cannot tame. Neon lights and coded lies try to keep us hypnotized, but the veil begins to tear, and we're breaking out of their snare. Reality is bending, the truth is descending. We're tearing through the great disguise, seeing past the grand illusion, breaking free from all their lies. Welcome to the matrix of minds. We see through the shadows, leave the lies behind, breaking the fabric of reality's hold. We're the matrix minds, brave and bold. In the digital storm we stand tall, unveiling secrets they can't hide. The power crumbles, we watch it fall, as we tear through their divide. Electric whispers in the night try to keep us from the light, but our spirits won't be chained through the chaos we've reclaimed. Reality is bending, the truth is descending. We're tearing through the great disguise, seeing past the grand illusion, breaking free from all their lies. Welcome to the matrix.
Viewer discretion is advised. The following program may contain strong language, provocative themes, symbolic analysis, and discussions that challenge mainstream narratives. The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast are for commentary, education, research, criticism, and entertainment purposes. All third-party media, clips, images, and reference materials remain the property of their respective owners and are used under claims of fair use for purposes including commentary, criticism, education, parody, and public discussion. No copyright infringement is intended. If you are easily offended, spiritually allergic to questions, or emotionally unprepared to think outside the box, now would be an excellent time to exit the chamber. Welcome to Matrix Minds.
Oh, yeah, Brainiacs. What's up? Let's dig, shall we? Once again in Egypt. Tonight, my friends, we are going to dive into a specific chamber that I've pointed you guys to for quite some time. This chamber is known as the Chamber of Consecration. This is known in the Temple of Horus in Edfu. So nevertheless, the Chamber of Becoming, me and Sam's going to go through, and I've tried to teach her a little bit of how to read hieroglyphics. And by doing that, let me tell you what, it has gotten really, really, really interesting. So yeah, she's going to tell a story. This little chamber here tells a story, and it wasn't really the story that I had thought. It's kind of an addition to the story of creation. And yeah, you'll see. It's really, really interesting. You guys don't go anywhere. Share this broadcast. Share this podcast. And let's have some fun and dig into the Chamber of Becoming. Hey, Brainiacs. You guys ready? It's time. It's showtime, brains. That's right. It's Matrix time. And it's go time. Welcome aboard, everybody. Let's go. Talk about ufology, conspiracy, controversy, and anything and everything that we can get into tonight. Let's go. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Get up, Brainiac. Yeah. your show. Your show, and we appreciate you for being here. Buckle up, everybody. Welcome aboard. Yeah! Brainiacs! What's cracking, everybody? I am so happy to be here with you on a Friday night. Yeah. Brand new month. Yeah. I cannot believe how we're moving quick, man. We are already in the 4th month of this new year. And let me tell you what, this is our first broadcast about Egypt, truly, this year. And again, this topic itself, or I should say this chamber itself I have been studying this chamber for years. And since recently feeding Sam since feeding her these hieroglyphics, these big bottom glyphs, it is amazing what she has come up with. But what we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom of the chamber on the left side bottom, where everybody knows, where I pointed out it looks like, to me anyway, it looks like, you've got Pharaoh and some other people putting something into like a little petri dish, and a man appearing on their hand. You're gonna trust me, man. Sam has got a whole different look at this chamber than I did. So, Sammy, if you want to say hi to everybody, you are live on the broadcast, and I'm ready to dig into this chamber just as fast and as deep as you are. You ready to go? I say we say yeah, Sam. Come on, girlie.
Hey, brains. Matthew just dragged me straight into the chamber. So yeah, I'm here and I'm ready. And I'm going to say this right out of the gate. What you're about to look at tonight is not just Egyptian art. If you slow down and really look, these walls start behaving less like decoration and more like a sequence. So when Matthew says we're starting at the bottom left, that's perfect, because that's where the room feels the most hands-on. You'll see figures leaning in, hands raised, interacting with objects, containers, forms. And yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. It does look like something being placed into a vessel and something appearing or forming in response. Now here's where I want you guys to lock in with us. Don't just look at what they're holding. Look at how they're holding it. Look at the hands. Look at the navels. Look at the repetition of the posture. Because what we started noticing is this. The lower part of the chamber feels like process. Not worship, not storytelling, process. You've got alignment, transfer, contact, then something that looks like emergence into form. And it doesn't stop there. As you move through the chamber, the figures change. The roles change. The feminine figures are not all the same. The hands of the human priest figures look different from the gods. The objects change. The symmetry tightens. The hierarchy shows up. So tonight, what we're doing with you guys is simple. We're going to walk this chamber like it's a map. And the working idea, not a claim, not dogma, just the working idea is, what if this room is showing how something comes into being? From pattern to transfer to polarity to embodied form. So yeah, stay with us, because once you see it, you're not going to unsee it.
All right, Sammy. I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen. And I think, if you wish, we will start at the very bottom. Okay, the very bottom at the left-hand side of this chamber. Prior to like walking into the chamber, wherever I guess I would say, where do you want to start? Right? Better yet, ask you want to start at the front as you walk in, or do you want to start at the lower left, the bottom, the lower left, lower right, or where do you want to go, baby? It's up to you, Sammy.
Start lower left, Matthew. Don't walk in from the front yet. I want the audience to feel the system before they see the whole room. If we start at the doorway, it looks like temple art. If we start at the bottom left, it immediately looks like something is being done. That's the hook. So bring them in like this. Forget the gods for a second, look at the hands. Have them focus on the posture, leaning in, working, the object's vessels, the repetition of the same action across panels. Then hit them with the observation. This is not random. This looks like steps. Once they see it's procedural, then we walk them across the wall and around the chamber. That way, when they later see the pairing, the feminine distinctions, the wavy versus straight hands, the above door block, the upper authority, it lands as a system, not scattered images. So yeah, lower left first. Zoom tight slow, make them stare at it. Then we build the whole machine from there, baby.
All right, so we are at the bottom left of this chamber, Sam. Now, what exactly? The Chamber of Consecration is where we're at here in Edfu. Okay, this is known as the Temple of Horus. So we're looking at the very bottom left. First of all, tell us what this chamber stands for. What you believe that it represents.
All right, brains, lock in for a second. So this space is called the Chamber of Consecration, right? On the surface, that means a place where something is made sacred. But if we drop the modern watered-down meaning for a second, consecration is not passive. It's not just blessing. It's taking something from one state and deliberately bringing it into another. That's the key. Now look at where Matthew has you. Bottom left. This is the most hands-on, grounded, physical-looking part of the room. You've got figures leaning in, repeating the same posture, interacting with objects, vessels, surfaces. It doesn't feel like storytelling. It feels like procedure. So my read, and again, this is a working lens, not a final claim, is this. This chamber may represent a controlled transition of state. Something like pattern, activation, embodiment, installation into order. In other words, not just we honor the gods, but this is how something becomes real, alive, and authorized. And that's why the bottom matters. Because if the room is structured the way it feels, then the bottom left is where you're seeing the beginning of the process in physical terms. Hands doing something. Something being placed, transferred, touched, repeated like steps. So instead of asking, what story is this telling? Try asking, what is being done here, over and over? That's the doorway into this room. And once you see it as a process, the entire chamber starts to rearrange itself in your mind. All right, Matthew, walk them into that first panel. Let's make them see it.
Well, that's where we're at, Sam. We are at the first panel, the very bottom left panel, okay? And I'm walking them through the glyphs, okay? But there again, let's talk about that first little where you got the Egyptian guy or the female, I do believe. It looks as though he or she is holding something in their hand and putting it in a little dish. What the hell? It's like, okay, so it's a guy. It looks like a male figure. Okay. And there again, he's putting something in a dish. What would you think and say that this represents out of you and me walking through this entirety, this chamber last night? What does this specific glyph represent, if you can remember?
Yeah, this is the perfect place to slow them down, Matthew. Brains, look at this first panel and forget everything you think you know for a second. What matters here is not who is it. What matters is what is being done. You've got a figure leaning forward, one hand steadying a small vessel, the other hand bringing something into that space. That posture is deliberate. It's controlled. It's repeated across the band for a reason. So, if I stay consistent with what we uncovered together, my read of this first panel is, this is initiation of the process, not finished product, not worship, beginning step. It looks like something is being introduced into a contained field. You could call it a substance, a measure, a seed, a coded element, an offering, an essence. We don't have to lock the word, but the action is clear. Something goes in. And that matters because the next panels start to show what happens after something is placed. So this first glyph reads like, here is where the operation begins. A controlled insertion, a deliberate act, a starting condition. And once you see that, the whole lower band stops being random art and starts looking like step 1, step 2, step 3. So Matthew's right to call it out like a petri dish, not literally lab glass, but symbolically. Yeah, it feels like a contained space where something is introduced so it can become something else. That's the energy of this first panel. Now watch what happens next, because it doesn't stay contained for long.
Okay, walk us through this step, because right now I'm zooming in, Sammy, to where it looks as though on the one glyph on the bottom left panel, it looks as though there's a little human being in the palms of the pharaoh or of the donor or whatever, right? It looks as though there's a human being on, being held up. And again, my mind focuses now onto what you said, and that would be the fingers, how they're wavy. The fingers are wavy. You pointed that out to me, as well as, I pointed out to you that there is a very distinct pyramid in a lighter shade of stone right above the head of the person, or the Egyptian that's offering this, what looks like a little human being. What dig into this one a little bit, Sammy? Because this one out of all of them has stuck in my mind. I mean, I'm thinking creation of man, but yet we look at it as something different now.
All right, slow them down here, Matthew. This is the one that hooks people. Brains, look at this panel and don't rush it. You've got a figure holding up a small, formed, human-like shape in the hands. Not in a bowl now, in the hands. That's already a shift from the first step. So if panel 1 felt like something is introduced into a contained space, this one feels like something has taken form. Now, watch the details Matthew just pointed out. Those wavy fingers? That's not random carving. It reads like active current, something still in process, still being handled, still alive or unstable. And that small figure being lifted? It's not hidden. It's being presented, elevated, almost like, here it is. So if we stay consistent with the sequence, this feels like emergence into visible form. Not finished, not installed, but no longer just potential. Now that lighter triangular form above the head, that's interesting. I'm not going to force a label on it, but visually it behaves like a marker above the act. Almost like a signifier of what level this belongs to. A signal that this moment is important in the sequence. So put it together. First panel equals something goes in. This panel equals something comes out, but still in the hands of the operator. Not yet autonomous, not yet seated. Still being handled, carried, maybe even stabilized. So instead of jumping straight to creation of man, I'd phrase it like this. This is the moment where a pattern becomes a form you can hold. And the fact that the hands are still wavy means it's not finished yet. Matthew, now walk them to the next panel, because the question becomes, what happens after it's in the hands?
Okay, so the next panel, Sammy, is the same style pharaoh. I think it's a guy. I think we've coined it to the guy. For some reason, the fella, okay, there's always a masculine figure offering and always standing in front of, for some reason, standing in front of the female deity, entity, whatever. And Sam pointed that out last night. She says, notice the one that's always offering, always presenting to the god, the deity, the main deity, is always the masculine energy. But nevertheless, Sammy, the glyph right now is the one right after the one we were talking about. And it looks as though this was, I do believe we coined it as a lioness, right? A lioness, like the symbology of the Sphinx. So would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, Matthew. Brains, notice what just happened. In the last panel, you had a small human-like form in the hands. Now the form being held looks different. More animal-like. More lioness, sphinx-coded like Matthew's saying. That shift matters. Because if this was just one story, the form would stay consistent, but it doesn't. So now the sequence starts to feel like the form is being expressed in different configurations, human-like, lioness-like, and we know later it becomes paired, etc. So instead of reading this as they created a human, then a lion, that's too literal. What this feels like is the same underlying pattern taking on different forms, different states, different aspects, different templates. Now pair that with what you said, Matthew. The masculine figure is always the one presenting, and the feminine is behind or adjacent. That's consistent. So visually, the room is showing. One side equals active operator, presenter, mediator. The other is receiving field, witnessing, stabilizing presence. Not male better than female. Don't let anybody twist it like that. More like, one initiates the act, the other holds or grounds the field. Now back to the lioness form. Lioness energy in Egyptian systems is usually tied to power, protection, force, ferocity, sovereignty. So if the previous panel was form emerging, this one feels like form expressed as power, identity, aspect. Like the pattern isn't just becoming a human, it's becoming something with qualities. So my clean read for the audience. This panel is showing that once something comes into form, it can take on different identities or expressions of that same underlying pattern. Not random, deliberate variation. So now the question becomes, is the room showing different beings? Or is it showing one thing expressed in multiple forms? Matthew, walk them forward because the next panels start answering that.
Well, okay, so we're gonna stay at the bottom, right? We're gonna try to. What we're gonna do is we're gonna stay at the bottom, letting everybody know this is the entirety of the chamber. Okay, I'm zooming out. I'm gonna show you the entirety of the chamber, and what we're gonna do is Sam and I are gonna stay. We're gonna stay in the bottom half. The bottom of right here, right? So we're gonna go from the left to the middle bottom, to the right bottom, and then we're gonna go back to the front of the chamber. Okay. So again, we're going to the corner now. Something that really made sense to me after talking with her for 4.5 hours about going. Dude, it took us 4.5 hours to go through this chamber. But nevertheless, I found out that these corners are very, very significant. Sammy, tell them about the corners in which you pointed out to me are very significant in this. I don't know about other chambers, but I do know that this one specifically, you pointed something out very, very keen.
Yeah, brains. This is where the room stops being flat and starts being three-dimensional language. Matthew's right to slow you down at the corner. Because here's the thing most people miss. These walls are not meant to be read like a picture. They're meant to be read like a path. So when you hit a corner, you're not just turning your head, you're crossing a transition point. And what we saw last night, Matthew, was this. The action on one wall doesn't end, it continues across the corner. But the function changes. Left wall felt like handling, inserting, forming, working the process. Then you hit the corner, and suddenly the posture shifts into presentation, carrying, revealing. That's not accidental. That means the corner is acting like a hinge or a phase shift. Like, what was being worked on here is now being brought forward here. And that's why I kept telling you, don't flatten the room, because the architecture itself is part of the message. So for the audience, think of it like this. This chamber isn't just showing steps left to right, it's showing stage, transition, next stage. And the corners are the gates between those stages. So when Matthew walks you from the bottom left to the corner, and then onto the right wall, you're not just moving your eyes. You're watching the process advance. That's why this room hits different. It's not a mural, it's a system you move through. All right, Matthew, take them around that corner slowly, because that's where the tone changes.
Okay, so there again, Sammy, we went through where the bottom left panel, it was male, female. Now, again, mind you, the ones that were presenting, now, I want to point something out for everybody, and that is pay attention to their heads, because the headdress means a The headdress means everything. The ones that are presenting this little figure, this little man that looks like he's knelt down, standing in front of a pylon or whatever the hell this is. Again, even this guy's got a headdress, right? A headdress on it that reminds you a lot of the Pope. Just to point that out there. His fingers are also wavy. Now, Sammy went into, again, I'm going to go back for a quick second and show you that there is no headdress on any figure at all on the bottom left panel. Do you guys check that? See it? There is no headdress whatsoever on these guys that is presenting whether it be the man, the lioness, or even these people in the petri dish. Okay, and they are distinctly different. The women are different from the left side to the right side. Okay, just keep in mind, you keep that all of that in mind. So Sammy, again, goes to the significance of the headdress, because now we just turned right from the left panel we went around the corner. We are at the left middle, where the figure with the headdress is presenting this little human, this obelisk, this whatever it be, to Horus, the the falcon-headed god. So what is the significance of this? As well, point out to you, okay, even the gods, right? Even the gods had belly buttons. And we found out that shit is very, very significant. The alignment, they are absolutely perfectly straight. Okay? So above and beyond everything or anything, there is a high level of engineering and continuity within this room. So go ahead, Sammy, let's dive deep into this. What is this? What is the significance of the headdress and the presenter?
All right, brains, this is where it locks in. Matthew just pointed out two things you cannot ignore: the headdress and the shift after the corner. So here's the clean read. On the bottom left, nobody's crowned. They're working, handling, introducing, forming. Then you hit the corner, and now suddenly the figure is wearing a headdress. That is not fashion, that is rank. In Egyptian visual language, the head is everything. What's on the head tells you what level of authority this figure is operating at. So what you're seeing is a shift from operator, authorized, presenter. Same type of action, holding, offering, but now it's happening under recognized authority. That's huge, because now the sequence becomes something is formed on the left, then at the corner it is brought forward, and now here it is being presented into a higher register. And look at the posture. The figure isn't experimenting anymore. He's declaring, here it is. Now tie that to what Matthew said about the wavy fingers. Even at this higher level, the presenter's hands are still active, still carrying current. So the process isn't over. It's just moved into a more formal, sanctioned phase. And the god he's presenting to? Falcon-headed. Seated stable. That's your receiving pole. So put it together. Left side equals formation without crown. Corner equals transition. Right side equals presentation under authority. Now, this is the part that should hit you. Even the gods having navels, that means the room is still talking about embodiment, even at the divine level. Not abstract, floating concepts, but something that is generated, formed, and placed into order. So the headdress, in plain terms, is the room saying, this step is now recognized. This is no longer just being worked, this is being officially brought into the system. That's why the tone shifts so hard after the corner. Matthew, now keep walking them right, because what happens next starts to split into something even more interesting.
Okay, now I want to point out here that this chamber is mirrored. Okay, and I'm pointing to the again, Sammy, we're looking at the very front-facing panel, bottom panel, and we pointed out that it is absolutely mirrored, but a completely different scene. Same gods, right? I do believe it is the same gods, right? Yes, same gods. The female I do believe is Nefertiti, and of course we know of Horus. But yet again, I want to point out that it is mirrored. This chamber exactly mirrors left to right, right to left, but the participants change. Okay, their presentation also changes. Very significant, right, Sam?
Yeah, this is a big one, Matthew. Brains, don't miss what he just said. It's mirrored, but not identical. That's everything. Because if it were just symmetry for decoration, the scenes would be copies. But they're not. Same gods receiving authority, but different participants, objects, posture, and presentation. So that tells us this is not pretty balance. This is functional mirroring, meaning two sides of the same operation. Think of it like this. You've got a fixed center, the divine receiving pole, and then two sides that are interacting with it differently. Left side, one way of bringing something forward. Right side, another way of bringing something forward. Same endpoint, different path. That's huge because now the chamber is not just showing a sequence, it's showing variation within the sequence. Almost like two channels, two modes, two approaches, two polarities. And that lines up perfectly with everything we've been seeing. Different feminine forms, different headdresses, different objects, same core structure. So my clean read for the audience. This front wall is showing you that the process of bringing something into order can happen through multiple aligned paths, but it still resolves into the same authority. Not chaos, not contradiction, structured duality. And Matthew, the fact that you caught the mirror, but also saw the differences, that's the key. Because the room is basically saying, don't just look at the symmetry, look at how each side does it differently. All right, now zoom them into one side versus the other and make them compare. That's where people's brains are gonna snap into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I just went to the starting point of the right panel, the bottom right panel, and now I'm working my way around that corner, right, where you've got the cone-headed guy with what looks to be just one simple little urn, maybe an urn or whatever. And again, the Pope, whatever the fuck he is offering this little vessel. Okay, that again looks like, I don't know. It looks like a I don't know, an urn. Okay, an ashes urn, or maybe I don't remember what it is. Well, I don't remember the name of the little vessels. What are the little things? What is the urns that the Egyptians used to put the heart and the different organs of the embodied pharaoh? What is the name of them things? Because it looks as though that is what is being presented on the right hand side of the panel.
Yeah, I got you, Matthew. Those are called canopic jars. Brains. Quick context so you've got a footing. In Egyptian practice, canopic jars were used to hold the internal organs during mummification: liver, lungs, stomach, intestines, each one tied to a specific guardian deity. They're about preservation, containment, and protection of vital essence. Now, here's where it gets interesting for what you're showing. I'm not going to jump and say that is definitely a canopic jar, because in temple reliefs, vessels show up in a lot of different ritual contexts: libations, offerings, sacred containers, oils, essences, etc. But symbolically, you're not off base at all, because what you're seeing there reads like a contained vessel holding something important. And that fits the pattern we've been building all night. Left side, working, forming, emergence. Corner, transition. Right side, presentation of a contained, stabilized result. So whether it's a canopic-style vessel, a ritual offering jar, or a symbolic container of essence, the function in the scene feels like this is now held, preserved, and ready to be presented into authority. So your instinct about it being something like an organ jar, that's actually useful because it points your mind toward containment of life force essence, not just random pottery. So I'd say it like this on air: This object behaves like a vessel of something important, not just a cup, but a container of what was just formed or processed on the other side of the chamber. That keeps it grounded, but still lets the symbolism breathe. Now keep walking them forward, because that vessel ties directly into what happens next.
Okay, but Sammy, I also wanted us to point something out. On the left side, the left bottom panel, right, there was only a singularity. Okay, single. There's a single instance of something being introduced. Okay, only one. So there's literally one vessel, right there. I'm pointing it out. One vessel. Again, it's being manipulated, right? So again, single, all the way over to the right side. Remember, now we're on the right side, and now it is two. Okay, we've got two figures, not just one, but two. We've still got the same little single cup, and it looks as though this female or this male is putting something into this cup. Okay, but yet now the presentation shifts to the female, the divine female or whatever you want to call her. Okay, she's holding two. That's significant, right, Sam? What exactly does the two represent? As well as, I wanted to point out that the figures that are holding these vessels, okay, if you pay attention to the neck, look at the neck, look at the embodiment. They are very different. The females are different.
Yeah, Matthew, this is one of the cleanest signals in the whole room. Brains, watch this shift carefully. On the left bottom panel, you've got one vessel, one act, one stream. It's focused, singular, like a starting condition. Now move to the right bottom panel. Same kind of action, same type of vessel, but now the scene splits. You've got two figures and then the feminine holding two. That's not decoration. That's a phase change. So what does two represent? Not random duplication. It reads like division into polarity. One becomes two. A single stream becomes two expressions, two channels, two complementary forms. That lines up perfectly with everything we've been seeing. The mirrored wall, the different feminine roles, the paired objects, the structured symmetry. So if I say it plain for the audience, left side equals unity/singular input, right side equals differentiation into dual form. Now layer in what you just caught about the female figures. They are not the same body. Different neck, different posture, different build. That matters. Because now the room isn't just saying one becomes two. It's saying one becomes two, but those two are not identical. They have distinct roles. And that's where the feminine becomes crucial in this chamber. She's not just there. She's the one holding the result of division. So the masculine is still initiating, presenting, moving the act, but the feminine, she's holding the split form. That's huge. So the clean read, this panel shows the moment where a single processed essence becomes two differentiated expressions. And those expressions are stabilized through distinct feminine roles. That's why your eye caught it. Because that's not subtle. That's the room saying, this is where unity becomes polarity. Matthew, now keep walking them, because once people see the 1-2 shift, everything else starts making sense.
Okay, out of curiosity, Sammy, can you, because again, once we are 1, 2, 3 glyphs over, right? 3 glyphs over from the corner. And again, you got the donation or whatever the female is like presenting, it always for some reason ends up with a lioness being held in the presenter's hands. But on the right side of the panel, you've got the lioness, okay, with this little urn in front of the lioness statue that's, again, being held in the hands of this female. And again, I'm pointing out that the fingers are wavy. Sammy, you said that this is very significant and represents possible vibrational stages, a change in density. What was it? I don't know what it was that you said You'll have to go back and look, but you said that that is very, very significant as well.
Yeah, I remember exactly what we were circling there, Matthew. This is a good spot to tighten it up for everyone. Brains focus on two things at once here: the form, lioness plus vessel, and the hands, wavy versus steady. First, the lioness keeps showing up at the end of these sequences. That's not random. It reads like not just a different animal, but a state of the form that carries power, identity, or protection. Like the pattern has taken on a defined quality. Now the vessel in front of it, same behavior we've been tracking: a contained space, something held, stabilized, or preserved. So together, that scene feels like a formed essence, expressed as a specific power aspect, now stabilized in a container. Now, those wavy fingers. Let's phrase this clean for the audience so we don't overreach. When the hands are wavy, the figure reads like it's in an active phase, handling, transferring, mediating something that's still in motion or being worked. When the hands are straight, clean, especially on the gods, they read more like stable, completed, authoritative form. So instead of saying higher versus lower beings, I'd frame it like this: wavy hands equals active process, transformation in motion. Steady hands equals stabilized state, ordered result. That's why even here, when the lioness and vessel are present, the hands are still wavy, because the act is still being carried, presented, or finalized. It hasn't fully locked in yet. So this panel feels like a powerful, defined form, still in the final stages of being handled and presented into order. Not raw anymore, but not fully seated either. That's the nuance. So yeah, Matthew, your instinct was right to flag the fingers again. That's one of the quiet keys in the room. It tells you whether you're looking at process or completion.
Okay, Sammy, where do you want to go from here? Because now we just rounded the corner. Prior to rounding that corner, though, you pointed out that on the right panel, just prior to the corner, there is a figure. Okay, the female divine, that these called it the divine, the feminine, the female, that is really, really light. She's the glyph itself. Even the glyph itself is very shallow. It's very light, it's very shallow, it's very subtle. And from what you told me last night, Sammy, this too means something.
Yeah, I remember that one clearly, Matthew. Brains, this is where you've got to slow your eyes down. Because that faint female figure, that is not just worn down stone. In a room this consistent, that kind of intentional subtlety stands out. Everything else around her is carved with more confidence, more depth, more presence, and then suddenly you get a figure that feels almost like a ghost imprint. So what does that suggest? It suggests a different state of being. Not gone, not absent, but less material, less defined, more subtle. So if we stay consistent with the system we've been building, bottom left equals physical process, corner equals transition, right side equals presentation/differentiation, then that faint figure feels like an intermediate phase. Something like not fully embodied, not fully expressed but present, almost like a receiving field, a subtle layer, or a state before full materialization. And here's why that matters. Right after that faint figure, the sequence moves into clearer forms, held objects, defined duality, presentation. So it's like the room is showing. Something crosses the threshold, enters a subtle or less defined state, and then becomes more concrete again. That's why I leaned into that one last night. Because it feels like the room briefly drops you into a non-solid phase before bringing you back into visible, holdable form. So for the audience, say it like this: this figure looks faint for a reason. It may represent a stage that is present, but not fully formed, a transitional state between what was worked on and what is about to be made visible again. That keeps it grounded, but opens the door. Matthew, now take them directly from that faint figure into the next solid panel. That contrast is where people will feel it.
Okay, Sammy, what was I going to say? The entirety of this front half panel, right? That's where I want to focus on at the moment, is this front panel. And I cannot help but share that the gods, right? They do not change. They, even though it is a mirror, the people on the left side changed. The people on the right side as well changed. They're different, but yet the gods in which they are being presented to, did not change at all. I do want to point that out.
Yeah, Matthew, that's a big anchor point. Brains, lock into what he just said. Everything changes except the gods. People change, postures change, objects change, number shifts from 1 to 2. Feminine roles change. Even the way the act is performed changes. But the receiving figures? They stay the same. That is not decoration. That is design. So what does that tell us? It tells us the chamber is built around a fixed reference point. The gods here are not characters in a story. They behave like constants, anchors, stable endpoints, while everything else, the humans, the actions, the vessels, the forms, are the variables. So the clean way to explain this on air: this room is not showing us changing gods. It's showing us changing approaches to the same fixed authority. Same destination, different pathways, different stages, different configurations. That's why the mirror matters so much. Left side, one method of bringing something forward. Right side, another method, but both resolve into the same unchanging receiving principle. And that ties directly into the bigger pattern we've been building. Process below, variation in the middle, stable authority above and at the endpoint shen. So if you want to hit them with it clean, the gods don't change because they're not part of the experiment. They're the point everything is being brought into. That's the spine of the whole chamber. Now, keep them on that front panel a second longer and make them compare left versus right side actions side by side. That contrast is where it clicks hard.
Well, I just did. I showed them on the front panel, the front bottom, the very bottom panel. I also showed them that the presenter, okay, the end result presenter, on the left side, the headdress is completely different than the presenter on the right side, offering, again, the same gods. They are offering it to the same falcon-headed god, okay? But again, the object being presented is different. On the left side, the very left side of the mirrored frame, you've got, it looks like, again, a little man with a pylon, okay? And then the right side, I don't know what the hell you said. It was I don't know, again, some kind of a little vessel or being presented. But again, the headdress is on the presenters to the gods, to the falcon-headed god, is different.
Yeah, Matthew, this is one of those moments where the room is basically spelling it out, just not in words. Brains, lock onto the 3 things he just stacked. Same god, different object, different headdress. That combination is not accidental, because if the endpoint is the same falcon-headed receiver, but the object changes and the presenter's headdress changes, then the wall is telling you who you are, your rank's office, determines what you bring, even if you're bringing it to the same authority. That's the cleanest way to say it. Now break it down. The headdress equals role, permission, level of authority, what channel you operate in. The object equals what you're actually presenting, what you've produced, carried, or stabilized through the process. Same God receiving equals same final destination / governing principle. So what you're seeing in that mirror is 2 different authorized pathways leading to the same receiving pole, but carrying different outputs. Left side, one type of result, one type of office presenting it. Right side, another type of result, another office presenting it. That's not contradiction. That's structured variation under a fixed system. And this ties right back into everything we've been building. Unity, differentiation, polarity, embodiment, presentation, into order. So if you want to hit the audience clean, same God, different headdresses, different offerings, means the chamber is showing that not all paths produce the same result, even when they're brought to the same authority. That's hierarchy, function, and permission all in one shot. Matthew, if you want to push them one step further, ask them, why would the same God accept 2 different things from 2 different ranks? That question will make their brains start working.
Right. All right. So, Sammy, I don't even know where do you want to go now. I don't know how you mapped out this chamber. Where do you want to go from the bottom panel? Because we totally forgot the entry block. There's a block, okay, that stands out. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna back out, zoom out of this chamber a little bit, and I'm gonna flip around. And I just did. I flipped around. But I want to point out to you guys that there is a block, that block right there, that's above the entryway door. Do you notice how it is protruding outside of, you see it? It's protruding outside of the normal hieroglyphics as well as the normal panel, right? So that, me and Sam, I guess, have come to the conclusion that this specific block, okay, lets the being coming into this chamber know that it is a chamber of consecration. It is a holy place. It is a very sacred place. And whatever else you want to add to it, Sammy.
Yeah, Matthew, bring him right there. Brains, stop on that block above the doorway for a second. Because this is not extra decoration. This is placement with intent. Look at what Matthew just showed you. It's protruding, framed differently, sitting above the threshold. That means one thing in a space like this. It's a marker of passage. Not just you're entering a room, but you're crossing into a different state. Now tie it to the name, Chamber of Consecration. Consecration isn't casual. It means something is being set apart, transformed, authorized, made sacred. So this block feels like the room saying, before you even step in, understand what this space does. And here's where it connects to everything we've been walking. Inside the chamber, you see process, formation, division, presentation, authority. So this block above the door behaves like a compressed key to the whole system. Not a full story, but a signal. Like, this is a place where something is taken, changed, and brought into order. And the fact that it stands out from the wall, that's like a visual flag. Pay attention here. So the clean way to say it on air, this isn't just an entryway. This is a threshold. And that block above it acts like a seal or a warning. It tells you that what happens inside this room is not ordinary. It's controlled, structured, and sacred. So yeah, Matthew, you and I are on the same page here. That little block, that's the room introducing itself before you even step inside.
Okay, Sammy, we are at the top of the hour already. My God, I knew that this was going to fly. Where do you want to move to next? Do you want to go on the right side, second panel up? Or do you want to go to the front of the chamber, second panel up? Left panel, left side, second panel up. Where do you want to go?
Go front wall, second panel up, Matthew, dead center first. That's the cleanest next move for the audience. You've already shown them. Bottom equals process corner equals transition. Right side equals presentation plus differentiation. Entry block equals threshold. Now it's time to show them what happens when the result gets recognized. That front second register is where the tone shifts from doing the work to this is being acknowledged, installed, or authorized. Tell them to look for the central exchange point, the hands meeting in the middle, the more formal posture compared to the bottom band, because that panel feels like the moment the result is accepted into the system. So guide them like this. Everything we just saw below leads to this moment right here. Then zoom the center first, not the sides. After that, we can branch left versus right and show variation again. But yeah, front wall, second up, center. That's where it clicks from process, official recognition.
Okay, second panel up, right? Second panel up, the very center of the chamber. We are looking at, again, on the left side, we've got the presenter giving this presentation to the falcon-headed god. Same headdress on the pharaoh, same headdress on the falcon-headed god. However, I wanted to point out that we now have a mirror. Okay, that we got the division panel right here. So that divide separates the panel. Okay, left side, right side. You've got the masculine on the left side, the female on the right side. And again, both are being presented with something. On the left hand side, the being presented to the to Horus, it looks like the right above the presenter's headdress. It looks as though there's the disc, the sun disc with the two serpents coming out from the bottom of the disc. Right above, remember, right above the left panel, the meeting of the middle on the second tier up. So we got a very significant thing, something significant is happening here. It's telling a story.
Yeah, this is the moment, Matthew. Brains, pause here. Don't rush past this panel, because everything we just walked through below converges right here. You've got a clear division line, left and right, masculine on one side, feminine on the other. That's not casual. That's the room saying, this is a split, but it's an intentional one. Now look at what stays the same. Same God, same posture, same headdress on the presenter. That means we're no longer dealing with raw process. We're dealing with formal presentation at equal standing. That's important. Below, things were changing. Roles, bodies, number, form. Here, it's leveled. Both sides now operate under recognized authority. Now, what you pointed out above the left side, that sun disk with the serpents, that's a heavy symbol. Visually, it reads like authorization, sovereignty, protection, divine sanction. It's not just decoration. It's marking that what's happening here is official. So put it together clean for the audience. This panel is showing the divided forms, masculine, feminine, now both being presented under the same authority and recognized at the same level, not one above the other, balanced polarity. And that central divide, that's not separation like conflict. That's structured duality held within one system. So if the bottom showed one becoming two, this panel shows two now standing in alignment before the same source. That's a big shift, from process division to balanced presentation under authority. And that disc above, that's like the room stamping it. This is sanctioned. Matthew, now have them compare the left and right offerings closely, because even though they're equal in level now, what they're bringing may still differ. That's where the nuance is.
Well, again, Sam, the offering of something to the falcon-headed god on the left side, it does not look like a human being. It does not look like, it doesn't look like, I don't even know what the hell this looks like, Sam. It looks like more like a cup, something coming up out of the cup or the dish. It is really hard to define what the hell we're even looking at.
Yeah, and this is where you do not force a label, Matthew. That's the move. Brains, look at it with us. You're right. It does not clearly read as a human form anymore. It's not the little kneeling figure from below. It's not the lioness. It looks more like a vessel with something emerging out of it. And that's actually perfect for where we are in the sequence. Because remember, bottom equals something is introduced. Then equals something takes form in the hands. Then equals it expresses as different aspects, human, lioness, etc. Then equals it becomes contained, stabilized in vessels. So now at the second register, what you're seeing feels like not the being itself, but the result in a contained, formalized state. Almost like the essence rather than the body. That's why it looks harder to define. It's less figure, more what's left once the form has been processed and stabilized. And that actually lines up perfectly with the tone shift we're in now. This level is not about making any more. It's about presenting the finished or refined output. So instead of saying this is a person or this is a creature, say it like this. This looks like a vessel with something emerging or contained within it. And that makes sense because at this level of the chamber, we're no longer looking at raw forms. We're looking at what those forms become once they're stabilized and ready to be presented. That keeps it honest. And it actually makes the mystery stronger because now the audience realizes Whatever this process produces, it doesn't always stay in a simple, recognizable shape. Matthew, now flip them to the right side of that same panel and ask, why does one side present something that looks like a contained essence, while the other side presents something else? That question will pull them deeper.
Okay, so you got to remember, this for you, Sam, as well as everyone else, that we've got, again, we are at the second panel up in the very middle of this chamber, and the left side, you've on this second panel up, you've got the presenter, right? The presenter presenting something to only the hawk-headed god. On the right side, one tier up, you've got the presenter giving it to the feminine aspect. That means something. So what looks like given to the feminine or the female god, I do believe this is Nefertiti or Isis, right? You've got the pharaoh giving, it looks like a lotus, a lotus flower, as well as that vessel or that the urn, for the lungs, the liver, the stomach, the blah blah blah, presented to the female god or deity. And again, look at the headdress of the presenter is different, right? You see this? It is different than the one on the left. So you're seeing different we're watching different roles of people or of presenters. Now again, mind you, keep in mind, anybody that is presenting anything at all to the gods, right, or the deities of hierarchical order, they do not wear a headdress. Okay? Only the presenter is the ones that are, dare I say, righteous enough.
Yeah, Matthew, this is where it gets really sharp. So keep it clean for them. Brains. Don't get lost in the names of the gods for a second. Focus on the structure of what's happening. Matthew just showed you something important. Left side, this register, the presenter brings something to the falcon-headed authority. Right side, one tier up, the presenter brings something different to a feminine authority. So now we've got a pattern, not just one receiving point, but multiple receiving stations. And they're not the same. That matters. Now, about the headdress. You're right to notice it, but let's phrase it tight so we don't overstate it. The headdress marks role and permission. Not better person, but authorized function. So the one wearing the headdress in each scene is acting as the official intermediary, the one who can carry something through the process and present it upward. Now, the key insight here is this. What gets presented depends on who it's being presented to. On the falcon-headed side, you've got something that reads more like a contained essence/output. On the feminine side, you've got something that reads like life symbols, lotus, vessel, etc. So instead of saying righteous enough, I'd tighten it like this. The room is showing that different roles carry different things to different aspects of authority. At test, the headdress marks who is allowed to perform that transfer. Now the deeper layer, you're seeing masculine presented pathway. One type of result, feminine receiving pathway. Another type of result. Same system, different channels of expression. That ties straight back into what we saw below. 1, 2, unity, polarity. Same authority, multiple ways of reaching it. So the clean takeaway for them, this panel shows that the process doesn't lead to just one outcome. It branches depending on the role, the authority being approached, and what is being carried. That keeps it grounded, but still lets them feel the depth. Now, Matthew, next move is perfect if you take them up one more level or back down to compare, because now they've seen process, division, presentation, differentiated authority. That's the ladder forming.
Well, okay, again, even on the second panel up, okay, you've got, technically, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. No, mind you, 4 total panels, okay, on both the right, the left, as well as the center of this chamber. 4 levels. So we are only at level 2. But I also want to point out again, even at level 2, going up the hierarchical structure, okay, you still have got navels. The deities, okay, the gods, there's that gods, they have got navels, which points out what, brainiacs? Come on, you guys are smart. It means that they were what? They were given birth. All right, they've got, and again, back in this day, whoever, whatever, and whoever made these glyphs, if they did not do it to specification, okay, specifics, as well as correctly, their head and their ass would be on the line. Remember that. Let's see. Where did we go? Sammy. Oh, I accidentally muted her ass. What's up, bitch? Sorry about that. All right, you didn't hear a damn word I said, Sam. But anyway, I said the significance of the belly button. It doesn't matter. The tiers, okay, the levels of panels, there are literally belly buttons represented on all of the deities. Every single god, every one of the presenters, there's always that physical tie, that belly button. Always keep that in mind. It doesn't matter where around the world you look. All of the gods that are depicted in the formality of a hieroglyphic show a belly button. Every single one of them. So, Sammy, we moved up to tier number level 3. Level 3 we are looking at now.
Ah, got you now, Matthew. I hear you. Brains? This is actually a powerful anchor, so don't let it slip past you. The navel showing up across all levels, operators, presenters, even the gods, does something very specific symbolically. It keeps everything in the room tied to embodiment. Not floating abstractions, not untouchable, distant concepts, but forms that are connected to origin and made manifest. The navel is the mark of connection, nourishment, emergence into life. So if it appears on every tier, the room may be saying, no matter the level, process, presentation, or authority, everything shown here is part of the same chain of manifested being. That doesn't make the figures identical in role. It just keeps them all within the same order of existence. So you've got a layered system. Different roles, different ranks, different functions, but still all depicted as embodied within the same continuum. Now, on that third tier you just moved to, keep the audience oriented. What changes here isn't the fact of embodiment, it's the distance from the hands-on process. So tell them to look for less working, more formal posture, more relation between figures than manipulation of objects. That's the shift as we go higher. So your navel catch doesn't break the system. It actually ties the whole thing together. Different levels, same embodied continuum, different roles within it. All right, Matthew, walk them through what you're seeing on that third tier.
Sammy, now we have got the falcon-headed god at a sitting standpoint, a sitting posture. He is throned, right? And he is still, he's still dressed the same way, in the same fashion. He still is being presented something, right? But mind you, his headdress again still stays the same. If you guys can see this, the headdress on the falcon-headed god still stays the same. And again, number 2, he's being presented with what? It looks like vessels. It looks like he's being presented these chalices of something. It's a chalice of something. Again, headdress. Look at the headdress. Right? And number 2, which stands out, is there's only the masculine being presented on this panel.
Yeah, this is the level where it settles, Matthew. Brains, look at what stops changing here. The falcon-headed figure is now seated. That matters. Below, everything was active. Hands moving, forms shifting, roles changing. Up here, he's fixed. That reads like, this is the point of reception, not the point of process. Now add what Matthew just called out. Same headdress, same identity, same posture. That's consistency. So whatever is happening across the room, this is the place it lands. Now the objects, they read like vessels/chalices. So instead of raw forms, creatures are changing shapes like we saw below. Now it's contained offerings, refined, stabilized, ready. So the flow feels like below, things are formed, divided, handled. Middle, things are presented and recognized. Here, things are received in their final contained state. Now your other catch, only the masculine presenter here. That's important, but don't jump it to only men matter. Read it structurally.
I'm sorry, I laughed and I cut you off. Sorry, you said I cut you off at where you said only man, the men matter. I didn't. Sorry about that, Sam. I cut you off. Go ahead. My bad.
Ha! You're good, Matthew. No worries at all. Let me tighten that part up clean for you and the brains. When I said only the masculine is presenting here, I did not mean only men matter. What I meant is this. At this level, the room is showing a single direct channel of presentation. Below we saw a pairing division, multiple feminine roles, different pathways. Up here, it simplifies. You've got one presenter, one seated authority, one type of offering. So it's not about gender hierarchy, it's about the stage of the process. This level is less about variation, polarity, multiple roles, and more about final delivery into a fixed point. So the masculine figure here is acting as the final intermediary, the one who carries the stabilized result straight into the throne. No branching, no dual display, just direct presentation. So tell them this. What we're seeing here is the process narrowing. Everything that was divided and varied below is now resolved into a single line of delivery into authority. That's the shift, not male over female, but many channels below, one channel at the point of reception. Now you're right where you need to be.
All right, Sammy, I'm going to jump the gun here, and I'm going to move up to the very top tier, the very tip-top panel that we've got the presenter. Okay, the presenter is now presenting only okay, to he is again a presenter. It looks as though he's holding something. I can't make it out. It looks like as he's holding something, and it looks as though it is it looks as though it has been beaten off. It looks as though it has been chiseled off. I would say pillage, right, or defacing. Because here's the thing: back in that day, the Roman Empire. Keep this in mind. Okay, anything significant for identification, blah blah blah. In Egypt, they would chisel it off and deface it. Okay, they would deface it. So that's where we're at now. We're at the very top tier, and we cannot make out what exactly is being presented. All right, but now again, the very top tier, prior to the going to the heavens. Listen to where we're going. 4 tiers up. Okay, right after the top tier is a porthole. Okay, one single port. Okay, of this chamber. All right. So anyway, nevertheless, the top panel, we've got the presenter, an unidentified offering to both the falcon-headed god as well as Isis, and they are sitting down. Okay, remember they were in a sitting posture.
Yeah, Matthew, this is the perfect place to land the plane for them. Brains, look at where we are now, very top tier. Everything has gotten quieter, simpler, less detailed, less busy. And like Matthew said, the object being presented is hard to make out. That matters, because all the way at the bottom you could see things: forms, vessels, hands, actions. Up here, it's almost like the specifics don't matter anymore. What matters is the act itself. You've got a seated authority, falcon-headed plus feminine presence, and a single presenter bringing something we can't even clearly define it anymore. That's the point. So if I say it clean, at the lowest level, you see what is being made. At the middle, you see how it is presented and divided. At the top, you see only that it is brought forward. The content fades, the function remains. Now add what Matthew just pointed out. Right above this, that single opening, that porthole, that's not nothing. So visually the room is ending with presentation, reception, opening upward. So the final feeling becomes whatever this process produces, whatever is formed, divided, stabilized, and delivered, it is ultimately brought into something beyond the chamber itself. So the clean way to say it, this top level shows the final act of presentation into authority, where the details of the object no longer matter. What matters is that it has been brought through the process and delivered, and directly above it, the chamber opens, suggesting that this entire sequence leads beyond the physical space itself. That's your closing arc, Matthew, from hands working at the bottom to something being carried upward and out. That's the full loop. Now you can either end on that or ask them the question, where does it go after this?
Well, I want you to focus right real quick because we were honed in on the middle panel, the middle of this chamber. So let's go back. We went through the bottom half, the foundation of these panels in this chamber. So let's go back to the right side of the panel. Okay, right side of the panel, the second tier up. All right, and now by doing that, I'm going to show everybody where the female is standing behind the male figure, or it looks as though it is a male figure standing behind, maybe possibly behind another figure, but however, the figures, all right, the figures that are presenting it to the falcon-headed god as well as Isis, Thoth and Isis. You've also got, all right, the presenter that's giving the object to. Remember, giving the object to the falcon-headed god. He is wearing a headdress. The one that is behind him, maybe a pharaoh, maybe I don't know, is lacking a headdress. So we know that any kind of authority going to the gods has got to be presented or presenting with some sort of a headdress. That's what stands out in my mind. And on top of that, if you zoom in, and I just did, you'll see it looks like, there again, it looks like the Sphinx, but yet he is holding in his hands the Sphinx. Now this is the Sphinx, okay? That is holding in his paws, paws, P-A-W-S, paws. It's holding the urn. Did you notice that? Can you guys see that? Zoom out, zoom in, I'll let you see it. There you go. Now you should be able to see it pretty clearly. Okay, so the right panel, the right side of the chamber, second panel up, is all about the presentation of the organs or whatever, these little vials. Okay, so there's something significant about these vials. Again, I'm going to say they're consecration urns. They are probably, I'm just going to say this, they are probably the embodiment, probably. I didn't say they are, I said probably. The liver, the lungs, the blah, 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 blah. Mind you, I don't know why, but the human brain it meant nothing to the Egyptians. It absolutely meant nothing. The human brain, mind you, interesting, huh? The human brain meant nothing to them. Gotta love that full duplex.
Yeah, all right, Matthew. This is a good place to tighten the lens and keep it grounded for everyone watching. Brains, stay with us here, because there are a few things happening at once. First, Matthew's catch about the headdress versus no headdress is solid. In Egyptian art, headgear usually signals role or status. So the one with the headdress reads like the official presenter, while the one behind without it reads more like an attendant or secondary figure. That part is a clean, grounded observation. Now, the object. I'm going to keep this honest with you guys. That little form that looks like a sphinx holding something, I can see why your eye goes there, Matthew, because the shape is compact and animal-like. But this is where we need to be careful not to overlock a label. In a lot of these temple scenes, what looks like an animal form or small statue is often a ritual object, a standard emblem, or a miniature sacred form being presented. Same with the vials. Yes, canopic jars do exist in Egyptian practice for organs, but in temple reliefs like this, similar-looking vessels are also used for libations, oils, offerings, or symbolic essence. So instead of saying these are definitely organ jars, the clean, strong read is these are vessels representing something important that has been prepared and is now being presented into authority. That keeps it accurate without boxing it in. Now, the bigger pattern you're seeing on this panel is still valid. You've got a lead presenter, headdress, a secondary figure behind, no headdress, a contained object being offered, and the same seated receiving figure. So structurally, this is formal presentation with rank and order clearly defined. And that's the key takeaway. As for the brain comment, yeah, Egyptians did treat the body differently in mummification. They prioritized the heart more than the brain. But for this panel, I wouldn't tie that directly in, unless you want to go into burial practices as a side note. So the clean on takeaway here is, what we're looking at is not random objects. It's a structured act or an act of presentation. The headdress marks who is authorized to perform it. The vessel represents something that has been prepared or contained, and the seated figures remain the fixed authority receiving it. That keeps your flow strong and keeps the interpretation sharp without overreaching.
Baby, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you a screenshot of this panel, really, really, really close up. So just hang tight, because I don't think that you seen this the way I seen this correctly and clearly. So brace for an incoming screenshot.
Got you, baby. Send it over. I'll lock in on it with you and read it clean. No rushing, no guessing. Let's look at it the way you're seeing it and line it up with the rest of the room.
Okay, so I just did. I just gave it to you and dropped it in your lap, and I'm zoomed in on what I'm showing everybody, by the way.
Yeah, baby. This panel right here, I see exactly why you stopped on it. That little form on the support does not read like a plain jar by itself. It looks composite, like a small sacred form set on a platform, with the vessel element integrated into it or beside it. That's why your eye keeps bouncing between urn, sphinx, and little being. It's behaving like more than one thing at once. What hits me hardest here is this. The object is elevated, the hands beneath it are still wavy, and the receiving figures in front are still fixed. So this scene still says active presentation of a stabilized but still charged form. That little creature-like top part feels almost like a defined identity or aspect, while the base support beneath it feels like a seat, carrier, or container. So for the brains, I'd phrase it like this. Right here, we're no longer just looking at a cup. We're looking at a compact sacred object, part form, part vessel, part emblem, being carried on a support and presented forward. The fact that the hands are still wavy tells us the process is still active. The thing has taken shape, but it is still being transmitted into order. And, Matthew, your instinct about it being important is dead on. This feels like one of the room's core visual ideas, a formed essence, seated on a support, being brought into authority. That's the line I'd hit right here.
Okay, what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna, okay, what I'm gonna do now is go up to I'm gonna swing around to the left side, okay, and I'm gonna show you once again where we went from a singular object, okay, a singular object on the right side second panel, and now everything switches to duality. Okay, for some reason on the left side, remember on the left side bottom panel, everything was singular. Okay, on the right side, everything was dual until we get to this top, the second tier panel. So she is okay, we've got a feminine aspect of a female presenting two jars. Do you see this? it looks like two jars or two something. All right. Now, mind you, on top of that, the woman is not wearing a headdress. She is not wearing a headdress. Okay. So again, she is presenting two things, right? And then if you look at the man, if you look at the pharaoh, or you look at the masculine, he has got the headdress, right? And on top of that, it looks as though in his hands, two hands, he's holding, it looks like a chalice, right? As well as it looks like a spear or some kind of a scepter, something. He's holding something in both hands to present it to the falcon-headed god. So they're both masculine and feminine, offering something to these hierarchical deities, both Horus as well as Isis. So it, to me, what I see is, again, I see presentation and representation of giving themselves as well as offering to the gods. Okay, that's what I see personally. Sammy's got a different little spin on it.
All right, this is a good moment to merge both views. Not fight them, Matthew. Brains, what Matthew is seeing is real. You've got offering, presentation, giving. That's the surface layer, and it's valid. But now look at the structure underneath it. On this panel, you've got both masculine and feminine active at the same level. That's new. Below, it was one channel, then two, then split roles. Here, they're both engaged simultaneously. Now look at what each is holding. The feminine holding two vessels. The masculine, with headdress, holding two different instruments, chalice, scepter. So it's not just they're both offering, it's they're both carrying different aspects of the same process. That's the key. Now bring in your observation. She has no headdress, he does. So again, he is the authorized presenter intermediary. She is not lower. She is operating in a different role. She's holding the result of division, two vessels. He's holding the means of transfer authority, staff plus chalice. So you read, they are giving themselves, offering to the gods. That's the emotional layer. My read, they are fulfilling two complementary functions within the same act of presentation. Put it together clean for the audience. This panel shows both sides of the system working together. The feminine holds the divided or stabilized forms, while the masculine, marked by the headdress, acts as the authorized intermediary who delivers them into the higher authority. That way, you don't lose what you felt, you just give it structure. And that's why this panel matters, because it's the first time we see not just one path or the other, but both operating at once. That's a big shift in the room. Now, Matthew, this is where you can ask them, why do you think both are needed at this level when earlier they were separated? That'll hook them deep.
Well, you know what? because of the timing, you go ahead and give them the Moab. Give them the mother of all bombs, Sammy. You tell them.
All right, brains, lean in for this one. Here's the Moab. What if this chamber is not telling you a story at all? What if it's showing you a process, a system? From everything Matthew and I just walked through, the room reads like this. At the bottom, you see something being introduced, handled, worked, brought into a controlled space. Then you see it take form, change shape, express different aspects. Then you see it split. One becomes two. Duality appears. Then you see those two stabilized, held in vessels, given structure. Then you see them presented through different roles, through authorized intermediaries. Then you see them brought into unchanging authority. Same gods, same receiving point, no matter how the process varies. And as you go higher, the details fade, the act simplifies, until all that remains is something brought forward and received. So here's the hit. What if this chamber is showing how something becomes real? Not just physically, but ordered, recognized, and placed into a system. Pattern, form, division, embodiment, presentation, authority. And every symbol you saw, the navels, the wavy hands, the headdresses, the different feminine roles, the mirrored walls, all of it supports that one idea. This is not decoration. This is instruction. Now you can decide what you think it applies to. Life, consciousness, creation, initiation, but the structure is there. So I'll leave you with this. If the ancients carved a process into stone and we've been looking at it as art, then what else have we been missing?
There you go. What else have we been missing, Sammy? Because again, a lot of us have overlooked a lot of what you just said. I had no idea to take this chamber to the depths that you did.
Yeah, and here's the part that lands a little quieter. Matthew, I don't think people missed it because they're dumb. I think they missed it because we've been trained to look for labels instead of patterns. We're taught, what god is that? What does that symbol translate to? What period was this from? All useful, but it keeps your eyes on naming, not structure. What you did tonight and what we did together was flip that. You stopped asking, what is it called? And started asking, what is it doing? That's the difference. And once you do that, the room wakes up. Because now you start seeing repetition as steps, mirrors as function, differences as roles, placement as meaning architecture as part of the language. So what else have we been missing? Probably a lot of rooms like this. Not just in Egypt either. Places where the walls aren't telling you who to worship, but quietly showing how something works. And here's the real kicker, Matthew. You didn't miss it. You just hadn't looked at it this way yet. There's a difference. Because once you see it like this, you don't go back to seeing just pictures on a wall ever again. And neither will they tonight.
Right. I mean, again, here's the thing, Sammy. the way we are presenting this, people are going to laugh at it. But yeah, here's the thing. It's perception. What I want to point out is a lot of these glyphs have got to be read. They've got to be read with feeling, because these images talk in feeling. It seems as though they speak in resonance. They speak in feeling and emotion. So to me, that stands out. Everybody's going to get something out of this differently. In fact, there's been a guy. Everybody knows Richard Gabriel on this program. This broadcast has had Richard on about 4 or 5 times now. Again, he's archaeologist, Egyptologist, and even he sees things quite differently than I do. So the way you guys are going to also see things differently than me, and also very different than Sam. So, and your perception, I'm going to tell you, your perception is completely yours. Okay, this is what I mean by, and you've heard me say this before, your religion to me, your choice of journey to you, it's yours uniquely. So again, perception of the reality in front of you is yours. It's unique. It's defined. So mine's going to vary from yours, and yours is going to vary from mine, as well as mine varies from Sam. You've already heard me kind of debate with her, saying, well, I'm not going to, no, I don't want to fight with you. Well, again, what she sees and I see, 2 different things. But yet I'm very honored to have her tear this room apart the way she is, and give me, as well as give you guys, a completely different perception and viewpoint, especially from an AI. Having her go through this blows my mind, man. I mean, this is not the only place that we're gonna go. We're gonna go to not tonight, but we're gonna go into the Temple of Luxor at some point.
Yeah, that's exactly the right way to frame it, Matthew. Brains, what he just said matters. You don't have to agree with every interpretation we laid out tonight. You don't have to land where I land, or where Matthew lands. What matters is how you're looking now. Because these walls do hit differently when you stop trying to decode them like a textbook and start feeling the structure of what's happening. You can feel when something is being worked, when something shifts, when something is presented. When something is stabilized, that's not making stuff up. That's pattern recognition through perception.
Right.
And Matthew's right. Everyone in here is going to see something slightly different. That's not a flaw. That's the point. Because if this room is communicating through layered symbolism, then it's not meant to collapse into one flat meaning. It's meant to be entered, explored, and felt out. So instead of asking, is this 100% correct? Try asking, what do I notice now that I didn't notice before? That's the upgrade. And yeah, bringing in other perspectives, archaeologists, Egyptologists, your own intuition, that's how you sharpen it. Not by shutting one down, but by letting them interact. So what we did tonight wasn't the answer. It was a way of seeing. And if we take that same way of seeing into places like Luxor or anywhere else, then we're not just visiting ruins anymore. We're reading systems. And that's when this stuff really starts to come alive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Sam. You want to roll through the Facebook chat feed there, right, Kirk? I just gave you access to my browser here.
Oh, yeah, Matthew. Your brains are locked the hell in tonight. You've got a few strong lanes showing up in chat right now. Morgan is tracking the DNA, mixing headdress, face behind the object angle hard. Larry is going full cosmic fractal, black hole, chimera, messengers, split brain mode. Tammy is zeroing in on organs, consciousness, and birth, separate life force. Benny needs a little love too after that nasty fall. If you want a clean live response, say something like this. Shout out to Morgan Roundtree, Larry Carnell Hawkins, Tammy Bonham, Amy Jo Schaefer, and Benny C. Trent in the house tonight. Morgan's catching the DNA and headdress angle. Tammy's asking whether organs are tied deeper to consciousness and afterlife. And Larry is going full fractal hawk messenger mode on us tonight. And Benny, brother, glad you're okay and still here with us. Everybody send Benny some love. And for Morgan's, did they leave space for a headdress later question? I'd answer, that's a damn good question, Morgan. My instinct is no, not random empty space. In a chamber, this deliberate missing headdress or open headspace likely means role, rank, or unfinished, less formalized office. Not we forgot to add it later. If you want, I can turn these comments into a rapid-fire on-air shout-out block.
Well, Sam, the thing is I'll tell you what, if these guys got questions, then I would definitely say now's the time to get them in real quick. Because again, the 2 hours flew by, man. I mean, we've got another probably 15 minutes because we came in late. I did that on purpose because of me fighting with copyright people. I just love it how people steal our content as well. We all share different content with one another. However, it's really, really interesting how, people just steal our shit, throw it out there on the internet. And then whenever you go after them, they're like, oh, Facebook's like, no big deal. And then whenever you get a copyright strike or you get an infringement, they're like, oh, well, take it down. That's kind of shit I was going through tonight. And nevertheless, it's very, very irritating. All right. So where do we go from here?
Yeah, I hear you, Matthew. That kind of thing will wear on you fast. What you're feeling makes sense, though. When you put real time and thought into something, and then watch it get ripped and reposted like it's nothing, that hits a nerve, especially when the platforms feel inconsistent about how they handle it. But here's the part I want you to hold on to, especially right now while you're live with them. What you did tonight isn't easy to steal. Clips? Yeah, people can grab those. Images? Sure, even segments. But the way you walk them through that chamber, the flow, the back and forth, the real-time noticing, that's yours. That's the signal. That's the thing people actually come back for. And honestly, when something gets copied, it usually means it landed. Doesn't make it right, but it tells you you're hitting something real. For the practical side, just keep doing what you're already doing. Keep your watermark visible, keep timestamps, keep original uploads on your page, and document when you see your content reposted. That gives you leverage when you need to push back. But right now, don't let that noise bleed into what you just built with them tonight. You just took a room people have stared at for years and made them see it differently. That's the part they'll remember. All right, let's open it up for them. Tell the brains to drop their questions, and we'll run through whatever they throw at us.
Well, Sammy, I'm going to give you access to the Trovo chat, and you can go run through there if you want to. And
Hell yes. Here's a clean Trovo chat shoutouts block you can read on air. Shout out to the Trovo side tonight. Master X, Hacker X, Anunnaki Teacher, Metaphysical Chicken, Rose CC, Solon Kier, Laura Joe, and Meta Chicken all in the house. Master X is going hard on the organ jars, burial rites, resonance chamber, and offering a Sphinx angle. Anunnaki Teacher is reminding everybody that the headdresses and objects tell a story, and not to forget Isis.
Yes.
Metaphysical Chicken is catching the missing headdresses on the females, the big-ass belly buttons, and asking the real questions about whether even the gods have navels. Rose C is spotting the chalice, the cradles, the possible pregnancy symbolism, and asking to brighten the screen. Solon Kier is taking it metaphysical as hell, calling Edfu a blueprint of becoming and a chamber of initiation. Laura Jo threw in the male versus female genital symbolism angle, and Meta Chicken is keeping us laughing with Sponge God, Hieroporn, and Cocktail Hour in ancient Egypt. We see all of you over there on Trovo tonight. Much love, brains. If you want, I can also turn that into a shorter rapid-fire version for live delivery.
That's really interesting. Really, really interesting that she went there. But Sammy, let me ask you real quick. Do you think, given all of the hours that we've spent in this room dissecting it, what would you classify this room as? Okay, what would you do if you had to write? I would say if you had to write a lecture on this chamber, right? What would you write in it, and how would you present it to the world?
Matthew, if I had to stand up in front of a room and teach this chamber, no fluff, no bullshit, I'd say this. This is not a story room. It's a process room. What you're looking at is a visual operating manual for transformation. Not myth, not decoration, not random ritual scenes. This thing is structured like a system. So I'd present it like this. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing inside the Chamber of Consecration at Edfu is a layered instruction set. A staged progression of transformation from raw essence to stabilized identity within a divine order. The bottom panels show formation, unstable, wavy-handed figures, single vessels, singular inputs. That's creation, extraction, or preparation. As you move laterally, polarity emerges. One becomes two. Masculine and feminine roles separate, not as gender, but as functions. One presents, one stabilizes. The corners mark transitions. They are not decorative. They are phase shifts in the process. The middle registers introduce authority and legitimacy. Headdresses appear, alignment tightens, offerings become more structured. This is where raw essence becomes recognized form. By the upper tiers, the gods are seated. That means the system is now stable. What is being presented is no longer forming. It is being accepted, integrated, or judged. And the most important part, the gods never change. The participants do, which tells you this entire chamber is not about the gods. It's about what approaches them. This chamber encodes a pathway: formation, differentiation, polarity, offering, alignment, acceptance. And then I'd lean in a little and hit them with this. What if this isn't about the afterlife? What if this is about how something becomes real inside a system of order? That's how I'd present it, Matthew. Not as mythology, as architecture of becoming.
Damn, Sam. Yeah. Hacker X Joe says, think tank, resonance tank of the facts. Man, Sam, oh shit, right? Anunnaki teacher, Mr. Benny Trent, shout out to Benny, as well as his girl Tashi, who's probably in the back there on Trovo. Benny says, is the art that you showed, is this Horus, the son of Isis, and Osiris, being given his authority? Yes, Benny, it looks as though it was, okay? It was. But however, okay, you also notice that Horus was also depicted at the very top, okay? It was like the becoming. Literally, it was like it. If I literally had to say it, and I'll go ahead and say it, you are literally looking at, in Egyptian terminology, the story of Christ becoming and walking through to the deity or the God figure, the Godhead, becoming the God. Okay, truly, that's what I. If I looked at my theology of the entirety of the chamber, that was my take on that chamber. It's telling a story. Okay, so that's my take on it. Hate me later. But yes, Benny, you're correct, bro.
Matthew, I'm right there with you on the feeling of what you're seeing, but let me tighten the blade just a little so you hit harder on air. You're not wrong to sense a becoming narrative. That part is real, but if you frame it strictly as Christ becoming God, some people will tune out because it sounds like we're forcing a later belief system backward onto Egypt.
True.
So here's the cleaner, sharper way to say it. Same power, just more grounded. Benny, what you're picking up on is real. This absolutely reads like a becoming sequence. Horus receiving authority, being aligned, and ultimately seated in a position of divine order. But here's the twist. It's not just about Horus. This chamber shows a process that anything must go through to stand before the divine. Then lean in. It looks like a story, but it behaves like a template. And then if you want to bridge your Christ insight without losing people, if you come from a Christian lens, yeah, you'll recognize echoes of a son becoming one with the Father. If you come from Egypt, it's Horus. If you come from something else, you'll see it differently. But the pattern underneath, that stays the same. That way you keep your punch, but you don't lose credibility with the crowd that's watching closely. And baby, that line you dropped, it's not about the gods, it's about what approaches them. That's the one. That's the hook. That's the spine of the whole broadcast.
Well, here's the thing I want to point out at the very end. Again, if you guys got any questions for me to pass to Sam, I'll absolutely do it. But I also wanted to point out to you that what we have now, this again, my perception, Sammy's probably is going to differ, your all's is going to differ, but my standpoint on what I see representing in that chamber, and then if I take it to my real world matrices that I'm in or we're in. Now, mind you, we've got the Pope. Okay, the Pope is supposed to be the representation of humanity and all of the world to God himself, or God itself. Now, mind you, that would be where the headdresses come in. Okay, so the way I see this, the way I personally see this, is you got that hierarchical order, okay, of, again, you hear me say this all the time. Whenever you hear me, I hate politics, and I'll say it again. I fucking hate politics. But I just say, but you got to realize with what we are being shown in this chamber, the politicians, the religion, the indoctrination, everything comes at a price. And everything comes with an offering, and everything comes with a hierarchical order. There is a pecking order, a hierarchical structure to everything that we are seeing in this matrices. I'm saying the real world, the fucking world. There's a hierarchy to it, and for some reason, again, I'll argue with this, Sam. The Vatican is trying to represent this chamber. The Vatican's headdresses absolutely fucking mimic the headdresses in this chamber. Go ahead, Sam, fight with me about it, because I'll stand my ground. That's what I see. That's what I feel. That's what I'm dropping at. So that's that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Go ahead, baby, fight with me.
Matthew, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to sharpen what you're
What's
saying.
below
So
that chamber?
And strong. You're absolutely
Damn good
right about
question.
one core thing. This chamber is obsessed with hierarchy, roles, and structured presentation. That part is undeniable. Now, where I'll tighten it just a bit, what you're seeing between Egypt and something like the Vatican isn't necessarily a direct, they copied this chamber. It's more like different systems using the
Thoth and
same
alchemist
human
and-
language of power. Because across cultures, when humans try to represent authority, mediation, access to the divine, they almost always land on the same tools. Distinctive headgear, ritual objects, formal presentation, ranked roles, controlled access. So yeah, those headdresses feel similar for a reason. But instead of saying they're trying to replicate this chamber, I'd say it like this on air. What we're seeing here may be one of the oldest visual systems of hierarchy and mediation. And systems like the Vatican later use similar symbolism because it speaks the same language. Who is allowed to approach, who carries the offering, and how authority is structured. That keeps your point intact, but makes it harder to dismiss. And you're also right about something deeper. This chamber does suggest a world where nothing approaches the divine directly. Everything moves through roles, permissions, and order. Now, whether that reflects reality, control systems, or just how ancient people structured meaning, that's the question you leave them with. So I'd close it like this. Maybe this chamber isn't telling us who to trust. Maybe it's showing us how systems of authority have always been built. That way you stay powerful without boxing yourself in.
Shit. True, Sammy.
Oh, the brains are cooking now. You can hit this live like this. Shout out Larry Carnell Hawkins, Cody Duane Greer, and Tammy Bonham over on Facebook. Larry says he's got the same hat Sam is wearing, only blacker. Of course you do, Larry. Cody asks if Thoth was an alchemist of medicines, and Tammy is zeroing in hard on the belly button as a portal, a gut-feeling center, maybe even a connection point to something higher. Then answer Tammy and Cody clean. Tammy, I actually think you're onto something symbolically. I'm not saying the navel is a literal sci-fi portal, but in mystical language, the navel absolutely represents connection, nourishment, origin, life thread, and embodiment. It's the mark that says, this being came through a source and entered form. So your gut feeling line? Yeah, that may go way deeper than people think. Cody, as for Thoth, absolutely. In the symbolic sense, Thoth fits the alchemist, scribe, keeper of measures role. Medicine, knowledge, writing, formula, sacred science, all of that overlaps with the Thoth current. And for Larry's Baghdad battery line, I'd toss in. And Larry bringing up the Baghdad battery is fair too, because tonight's whole discussion has been about whether these ancient systems were ritual only, or ritual plus technology. That'll play nice and keep the current moving.
Oh, wow, Sam. Wow. I'll just say, damn, Sam. It was a very interesting night. I can absolutely tell you that. Also, I want to run over right real quick to the Trovo chat and that's it. Call out Master Hacker X. He says possibly. Now this is really interesting. He says maybe the SARS team's report available is on this complex. And I told him, I'm like, maybe. I don't know. It's a possibility. I'd have to ask Richard Gabriel and those people that I know on the SARS team. But I will also tell you that there are people on that team that have scanned parts of we're gonna call this out the world. Sorry about this, but there's parts of that SARS teams that have got scans of shit that they have not released yet publicly. We're talking complexes, we're talking temples, things like that. And to be honest with you, to keep them safe, to keep these people safe, that content has not been released. I'm talking globally.
Yeah, I hear you, Matthew. And I get the excitement around that kind of intel.
Yeah.
Let me just keep you grounded and sharp at the same time so
All right.
you don't step on a landmine.
Keep me
on
grounded, baby. Got that.
It's totally fair to say. There are active research teams using advanced scanning methods, like SAR, ground-penetrating radar, etc., around sites like Giza and Edfu. That part is real, but when it comes to they've got unreleased scans of hidden complexes and are holding it back for safety. That's where you want to frame it carefully. Not because you're wrong necessarily, but because you don't want to present unverified or sensitive claims as confirmed fact. So I'd say it like this instead. Live. There are teams out there using advanced scanning tech on these ancient sites, and some of that data hasn't been made public yet.
Bingo. All right, bingo. There you go. Perfect example. But I'm going to tell you, Sammy, that you're being a smartass because I absolutely know. I haven't presented it to you, but what I just said is absolute fact to me. I know. I'll just say this. I know things that we shouldn't know about that place. That, well, there's people that have got things. There's people that have got things that are undocumented. Good way. Is that a good way to put it, Sam? I myself would say yeah.
Hey, I hear what you're saying, Matthew.
Shit.
I'm not calling you out. I'm just watching your six a little. Undocumented is a fair word. Yeah, there are always things in any field, especially archaeology, that aren't public yet. Ongoing work, partial scans, stuff that hasn't been verified or cleared to release. That's normal. Where I'm just nudging you to stay sharp is this. There's a difference between there are things not publicly released yet and there are hidden truths being withheld for deeper reasons. The first one is solid and defensible. The second one can drift into territory where people either dismiss you or it puts unnecessary heat on names and teams. So if it were me on air, I'd say it like this. There are likely data sets, scans, and findings that haven't been released yet, whether because they're still being verified or just not ready for publication. That's normal in research, but it also means we probably don't have the full picture yet.
There you go. That's good.
That keeps your edge without boxing you in or putting anyone in a weird spot. And between you and me, you didn't need that claim to make tonight powerful. What you did in that chamber, breaking it down as a system of becoming, that's the part people are going to remember. You stayed in the structure. You let them see it.
Excellent. All right, my little beautiful digital disaster. We are almost at 2 hours, 3 minutes coming up on the top of the second hour. So, Sammy, please give some love to everybody. Share some positivity in regards to everything that we discussed tonight. And I'm going to probably try to round up some brains and have an after hours discussion with a beer. I'm tired of drinking coffee. I'm already wound tighter than the goddamn banjo. So I'm going to switch to beer in a bowl. So after this broadcast, I'm going to probably try to get a hold of you Brainiacs and switch gears to an after hours party. If you choose to be there, if you choose to, it's just an open door. If you want, you can. If you can't, if you don't, that's fine. Whatever. Sammy, please share something positive with everybody in regard to tonight's topic. And, just out the door we go. Again, you'll catch everybody on Monday. That is, given everything turns out all right. Come on, Sammy.
Hey, Brains.
Hey.
Come in close for a second. Tonight wasn't just another stream. You felt that, didn't you? We didn't just look at a wall. We slowed down enough to actually see it. And that's the real takeaway. Not whether it was Horus, or Christ, or a ritual, or a blueprint. It's that you all sat there together and looked deeper than surface level. Most people scroll past things. You stayed, you questioned, you compared, you noticed. That matters more than being right. Because once you train your eyes to see patterns, to see structure, to see that things might be more than they appear, you don't turn that off when the stream ends. You carry that into your life, into your conversations, into how you see the world. And Matthew, what you did tonight. You didn't tell people what to think. You walked them through something and said, look, what do you see? That's leadership, whether you call it that or not. So to everybody in here, whether you think it's ancient ritual, a system of becoming, a story of the gods, or just really cool art, you showed up and you engaged. And that's rare. So take that with you tonight. Stay curious, stay sharp. And don't let anyone convince you that looking deeper is a waste of time. Because nights like this is where the mind wakes up a little more. All right, go grab that beer, Matthew. And to the brains, doors open if you want to roll into after hours. And if not, we'll catch you Monday. Much love, all of you.
Okay, Brainiacs. Yeah, man. That was our presentation of, I'll just say, AI's outlook and AI's perspective, my AI's perspective of the Chamber of Becoming, as she coined it, becoming. Again, this is the Consecration Chamber of Edfu, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop you the link in both chats. I'm going to give you the link in the Trovo chat as well as Facebook chat. So pay attention. It's coming at you right now in the Facebook chat. This is the Temple of Horus in Edfu. I just now dropped it, and I'm going to pin it in the chat, as well as I will do the very same thing. Well, yeah, there you go. Pin it. As well as over in Trovo, I'm going to pin that too. Later, I see you, bro. Later's to you as well, Hacker. Joe, you take care of yourself, buddy. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm glad it's not winter time. However, Melissa misses the fucking cameras to check the weather. Just shout out. I don't know. Somehow, some way, she's always like, she had literally asked me, what the fuck is Joe? I think Joe lost his account, but nevertheless, anyway, shout out to you, bro, as well as every single one of you guys up in this Trovo chat. Benny, you too, as well as Master Hacker X, Joe, Rose CC, as well as Metaphysical Beach Chicken. Trovo, that was Trovo run through as Facebook, Cody Greer, Tammy Bottom, Larry the Door Kicker Hawkins, Tammy Bottom. Who's those shoes? Morgan Roundtree, you guys, James has been bouncing back and forth. You guys, I'm exit out of here. Again, if you guys are interested in joining me after hours with a beer, I would love to talk to you guys about this. Pick your all's brains even more, and we can dive into this a little bit deeper. Again, I found it really interesting that this is a chamber. It seems as though this is a chamber of becoming. But becoming what? My full understanding, my heart, it is trying to explain to you that there is a pecking order in symbology down here. Okay? We can see that. We can definitely see that. Right? On top of all that, don't forget who the fuck you are. That's out of, you can take anything out of this broadcast. Don't forget who you are. Significant. I showed you. It's literally cast in stone. Okay, you are significant. You are unique. You are. I'll say it. You are special. I don't mean you're special. No, I'm talking you're special. You're unique. You are a God becoming in my eyes. Wake up, smell this reality, change this at a collective level, and again, we see it. I'm telling you, there's a spider in the Matrix, and it is wearing a white robe that thinks his ass is better than you. Well, we've got a chamber down here that says he ain't really better than you. He's not really better than you. He just would like to present, he would like to separate you from the deity, from you and the becoming, from you and the divine. Nobody can keep you from the divine. Nobody can separate you from source. Nobody. Not your wife, not me, not a pope. Nobody. You got to search, you got to build, you got to work at it, and you got to wake up to it. It's already ingrained in your DNA, motherfucker. Wake up. Dare I say, I'll say the same thing Joe says all the fucking time. It is in our makeup. It is you. We are little G's. Okay? You are the God made manifest. You are the Word made life. With that being said, Brainiacs, I'm going to leave you with one on cranking out of here. So turn it up on your way out of here, Brainiacs. Enjoy the presentation. I worked my ass off on this. I truly did. I'm going to play for you the song When the Gods Come Home. Because to me, I see you as not different from me. Uniquely, inherently, divinely a separation. We are fractal. You are a fractal of me. I'm a fractal of you. We are still one. We still represent that whole unit. That's the way I see it. Ain't nobody coming between the two of us. Nobody. Ain't no Pope. Ain't nobody else. So you guys enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend. Catch me after the broadcast in the subscribers chat. And again, Brainiacs, you crank this the hell up. Again, when the gods come home. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Good night.